Peace. Good afternoon. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to another edition of the Foul Playland. As always, I'm your foul player. Wanted to make this video regarding the announcement that happened yesterday regarding Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao announcing a fight, I believe, for August. Just wanted to give my thoughts on that and expose some of the hypocrisy that is being displayed with since the announcement. But as far as for starters, I'll give credit to Manny Pacquiao for taking on this fight, only in the sense that he could have fought like a YouTube personality or a celebrity, Conor McGregor, and he didn't. He's taken on the number 2 welterweight in the world, arguably. So kudos to him in that. I mean, personally, I hope he beats the shit out of Errol Spence. I doubt that's gonna happen, though. I think Errol Spence has a good chance of washing Manny Pacquiao, especially if he fights or if he comes in the fighting shape that he did when he fought Danny Garcia, which I thought was Errol Spence's finest work. But moving on from that, though, one thing I didn't see, though, is the hypocrisy of or the phoniness of the whole unifying pursuit that Errol Spence was, after, when he was taking on a fight with Dennis Ugas, and not mentioning anything to do with Bud Crawford. I gotta get the fuck out of here. With Bud Crawford, with the Bud Crawford fight, and a lot of Errol Spence apologists or PBC defenders, use the excuse of, hey, well, he's trying to, he's trying to gain a belt and he doesn't want to work with Bob, and this is a way to get a belt, even though Dennis Ugas was gifted that belt, but it was a way for him to get a belt without having to go through Bob. So now he gets the Manny Pacquiao fight, and for no belt, and you hear crickets. If you run with the excuse that he's trying to unify the division and a Terrence Bud Crawford fight is next, there's almost no chance that if Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence fight and Errol Spence is the victor in that, and Dennis Ugas is still holding that belt or somebody else, that Errol Spence is going to fight Bud Crawford next. No matter what, period. At least you had some hope that if he beats Ugas, that they go back into negotiating with Bud Crawford immediately after getting a third belt. But that's not going to happen now. Now I could predict that what's going to be said is, Manny Pacquiao makes Errol Spence a star, which it doesn't. Manny Pacquiao has been beat at the lighter weights. He's been beat at welterweight multiple times. But, he had to go chase the money fight, and which Bud Crawford would be a bigger money fight. And that now, after that money fight, quote unquote, that he has to go chase a belt. So what's to say that if after he beats Manny Pacquiao, if Canelo says, let's go fight at 164, that Errol Spence is gonna go do it? Of course he's gonna go do it. He's already acting like he's calling out Canelo more than he is Bud Crawford at this present time, today, or this past week. So you don't think that he's gonna do the same shit? If upon beating Manny Pacquiao, that he's not, and per se, if Canelo tries to make easy work of him and makes him move up in weight, that he wouldn't take that fight? Of course he will. But one thing that I didn't see following this announcement is a lot of these PBC defending channels, they're not making videos. When Kenny Porter made that statement last week, that it was pretty much as where they could find the cop out or a fake excuse that it's somewhat Bud's fault as to why this fight is not being made, or Bob Arum. They'll make videos on that like instantly. But this fight gets announced, like the biggest match in welterweight at this present time, and with their little favorite fighter, their boo, and no announcement. Because they're trying to think like, how the fuck am I gonna word this? Or let's all get together and like come up with a plan on how we could make some sort of excuse as to why Errol Spence is taking that fight. Because these dudes are bitch made. At the end of the day, I mean, like, they're fucking we've let a bunch of guys with bitchy tendencies into the sport. And a lot of people that were fans of the sport, because there weren't many fans of the sport a couple years ago, you guys have become bitches too. Period. And that's the more shameful part of this. I understand if some young cat comes up into the game and he's just has an affinity for a certain fighter. I guess that could be excused. But when you have these grown cats that been liking boxing, probably even before I liked boxing, when you have them making excuses and always have an opinion when it comes to any negative, what they think is negative press with Bud, but now that this could be spun negatively for Errol, they may not think so now, but because this is going to be a big money fight. But at the end of the day, Errol isn't making any inroads to try to fight Bud Crawford, period. And this was being shown in with the announcement of this fight, period. And does this put us closer to Bud Crawford? Absolutely not. Is Bud Crawford gonna fight? Is a Bud Crawford fight gonna happen after this fight? Absolutely not. It is what it is. I mean, I just wish that a lot of you guys were more forthcoming and just say, oh, he don't want to fight him now, or you guys make it seem like like by Errol Spence mentioning Bud Crawford 2 times a year that he's on some beef shit. He's not on some beef shit. He's giving the impression that he wants Errol Spence twice a year. Like, if I wanted to get ass, like, from actually that's simp shit. Like, but or if I really wanted to make bread, and all I'm doing is talking about making bread or just smoking pot and some shit with my friends, like, and making plans for it, and not really putting anything into play, like, to make that happen, then then I'm gonna be broke. And that's what's happening here. I did make some. Wanted to make sure I covered all the bases. I'm trying to think, but and with the whole like 50-50 argument or like splits, like, I don't care what any of these dudes make. Period. At the end of the day, and a lot of you guys are gonna say, "Oh, it's a business. You should know that it's a business. You should know that I don't give a fuck about business. Anything to do with business in boxing. I go to sit my ass on a Saturday and watch a fucking fight. Who's making it business in all this? Or who's starting with that shit? It's Errol Spence. Errol Spence is in front of another dude that's like pretty much calling him out when he had that conversation with Bud Crawford, and he's the one shouting out fucking 60-40. Like, if they don't like each other, I mean, then, or if I don't like you, then I'm gonna be like, all right, fuck you, ain't gonna be none of that. Like, what are you supposed to say? All right, let's do it. Like, some people aren't like that. I probably would have done the same shit. Like, if your whole narrative is that you're trying to unify the division, and I have the last belt, and then you say 60-40, like, for me, your rival, like, I could be like, ah, fuck y'all, like, ain't no fucking if you really want this, like, like, you're gonna have to come correct. But he's the one that made this like or threw percentages around like fucking off the rip. That'd be like somebody coming to fight me. I'd be like, all right, Tuesday. Like fucking you know, like, or like we'll fight on my street. Like or I'll, you know, like fucking, I don't like, or we'll fight on this, in this location. Like a lot of you guys be like, oh yeah, like fucking, you know, oh well, if you want that fight, then fight him wherever, like fucking. But shit ain't like that. And like people do get petty. Like a lot of you dudes are petty, bro. Like fucking, a lot of you dudes are bitch made. Period. Like leaving petty out of it. Like a lot of you guys are straight. Everything you guys say about girls, like you guys are worse. Like fucking catty, petty, always trying to be in somebody's face. Like fucking, you guys are mad corny. Like fucking, a lot of you got, like, you know, and a lot of you channels, at the end of the day, man, I still got a lot of love for channels. And like, just because it, you know, somebody's a fan of Errol Spence, I don't give a shit. Like, you know, like, and a lot of, you know, that, but, and I don't have like anonymity with any channel really, like fucking, except like a few cornballs, like fucking, but there's a lot of channels that I used to outright love. Like, I mean, like, that when I came into YouTube boxing, or when I started listening to YouTube boxing, like a lot of these channels were gospel. Like, and it wasn't even just boxing stuff. Like, you know, they were just fun to listen to. I mean, like, you know, like, I'm some fucking Puerto Rican cat from New York. I mean, like, you know, it's good to get other people's perspective. Like, fucking, even though I've traveled a lot and I've been around a lot of people, but, you know, at the end of the day, like, you know, my perspective is limited to what I've been through. Like, fucking, but then to see a lot of these same, and so in a sense, like, I mean, like, you know, like, I don't take that lightly. I mean, like, you know, fucking, like, because you feel like, to a degree, that you know, you sort of grow up with these people, or you see them grow, like fucking, but when you see them convert into like straight bitchery, like, you know, what like, you can't say nothing to it. Then you hear about a lot of this shit, like, or a lot of shit about these channels, like, behind the scenes, and they're like worse than what you think. Like, you know, it's not even bitchery shit, it's like fucking, like, terrible stuff. Like, but I mean, like, and a lot of that stuff makes it make sense, but it's like fucking, it's like highly disappointing. You know, fucking, and the thing is, like, you know, a lot of these people try to make it seem like they're controlling the narrative. No, I mean, what if you feel you have any level of control of the narrative, you're making the narrative into apologist of bitch shit. So congrats on that. Like, fucking, you know, if you want to say that you have input on that, I mean, like, you know, go for it. Like, I stand by the same shit that, like, from the rip. Like, I mean, like, I was never a fucking Bud Crawford fan like that. I liked Errol Spence a lot more than I did Bud Crawford when they were both on the rise. You know, but at this point, Errol Spence is a bitch. Like, period. And, like, fuck all that shit, like, of, oh, yeah, you know, all these fighters, they put... Fuck that shit, bro. Like, my man washed a world champion fucking fighter, a welterweight at that. And my man, like, fucking couldn't fight for shit. Like, these dudes aren't about that shit, bro. Like, fucking barking on other black reporters, or, like, fucking, or shitting on YouTubers. Like, and it's not that I'm here defending on YouTubers. Like, it's that fucking, at the end of the day, if I seen Errol Spence, I'll tell him to his fucking grill. Ain't no thing. Like, fucking, he's a herb. It's a cornball. He's a good kid at the end of the day. He ain't really, like, and not that he portrays himself as some fucking goon or anything like that, and not that I only have respect for dudes that are beyond that goonery shit. In fact, I have less and less respect for dudes that are only relegated to doing goonery shit. But a lot of dudes that are apologists for fucking a lot of these fighters, like, I mean, they'll get on some real disrespectful shit, like, online, and it's happened to me personally, like, fucking, or they'll get, like, disrespectful, like, within the comments, and at the end of the day, that's driven by fucking feminine, like, bitch energy, and sorry to even use feminine energy, like, fucking, just, because, Females be a lot more about it than these dudes are. But at the end of the day, a lot of these dudes are extremely sensitive. Extremely sensitive. And they're playing defense for a sensitive motherfucker. And we're not getting the fights we want. Nobody in there, like, 3 years ago, maybe, I wanted to see, like, Errol Spence or Bud Crawford make cannon fodder out of fucking Manny Pacquiao. Like, why the fuck do I want to see Manny Pacquiao fight right now with anybody? You know what I'm saying? Like, and this is just delaying the process with all these fights. You know, these dudes are getting older. Like, I don't want to see fucking Errol Spence fight Bud Crawford at fucking 160, or when they've already taken losses. Like, make that shit happen now. But it's not gonna happen now. My contention was always the same, that this fight was never gonna happen, and it's not gonna happen. And, like, you know, let's see a lot of these channels start calling for Ugas versus Bud Crawford. Bet you they won't. I mean, and I don't want to see that fight either. Fucking waste of time. Like, never did I fucking think last year, like, man, it would be great to see Ugas fight whoever the fuck. Like, I didn't want to see Ugas fight, bro. Like, fucking get out of here. And just because I like Bud Crawford more than Errol Spence, if he fights Ugas, that shit's going straight to YouTube. I'm not watching that shit. Like, fucking, they better not try to charge money for that, or say anything in that caliber to charge money for it. Like, fucking, because I ain't paying for that shit. But a lot of you guys, like, fucking will make it seem like, oh, like, fucking Bud Crawford having to fight Ugas, that's not even a big selling fight. Like, oh, like, who the fuck is Bud Crawford? Like, motherfucker, like, you're a banker, bro. And a lot of these dudes are church keyboardists. Like I am Will's corny ass. Church keyboardists / bankers, like, fucking living in some dusty ass fucking $95,000 house, like, fucking with an army loan or some shit, like, fucking front, like, trying to speak on other dudes with his fucking female energy, like these dudes ain't shit, bro. Like, fucking none of these cats. But let me know what you guys think, man. Fuck all of y'all, like, fucking, or the dissenters that are listening among this. Fucking to my fucking couple of faithful listeners, I appreciate every one of you. Fucking, it really means a lot to me. I love engaging with you within the comments too. Like, fucking, I don't front about my opinion, and I never leave a comment unanswered at this stage. Like, fucking, but it is what it is, man. Like, I don't take anything back. And you go back to my shit when there was a rumor that Bud Crawford was gonna fight Errol Spence. My at that point, my shit was like that Errol Spence was gonna fight Ugas for a belt because he's a bitch. Like, and he was fronting on fighting Bud Crawford. So while that was happening, it would have been cool for Bud Crawford to fight Manny Pacquiao, so that when that fight gets done between Bud Crawford and Manny Pacquiao, that Errol Spence ain't on the bitch shit that he's on now, like, fucking throwing out percentages. Like, I wasn't fucking, like, cheerleading for that fight because I don't want to see that fight either. Period. I mean, it would have been cool to see Bud Crawford beat the shit out of Manny Pacquiao, like, fucking, because you know he'd get him out of there. Like, fucking, let's see if Errol Spence does that. Decision, man. Like, fucking, but besides that, I wasn't fucking no cheerleader for that shit either. I was just cheerleading because of the fact that Errol Spence Ugas was already, like, pretty much announced. So, like, while that was happening, like, let's make a Manny Pacquiao and Bud fight happen, and fucking that way we don't get more of this fucking percentage or negotiation hang-ups, like, happening. Now, I mean, like, fucking, we are where we are. We're not gonna get that fight. Like, fuck the welterweight division. Like, I can't wait for a lot of these dudes, like, to fucking leave the division outright. Like they already teased like they're gonna bounce. Like fucking bounce already, bro. Like you guys are slowing up the game. Like fuck, actually, man, fuck boxing. At the end of the day, bro, I've been saying this. Like boxing's so fucking whack right now. It's not even funny. But let me know what you guys think. With that, I'm out. Peace.